Good evening to everybody. My name is Walter Price, and on behalf of the North Lake Tea Party and the Lake Federated Republican Women's Club, I'd like to welcome everyone here and thank you for coming out for this informative, timely forum. I say timely because the primary election is in 10 weeks, so we're getting close. August the 26th is the primary. Now, the format for this evening's forum is that, well, first let's have the candidates come up. Candidates, come on up and take your positions behind your name tag, name card. I would like to welcome Belita Grassel, Jennifer Sullivan, Joseph Stevens, Randy Glisson, and Terri Seefeldt. None of the candidates have any idea what the questions are going to be this evening. I believe that that is the fairest way for us to proceed with this. I think it'll give us some more genuine answers and also really demonstrate their knowledge on the various topics. Shooting from the hip like that, I think is a great idea. Much better than prepared, canned comments. Plus, the audience has been writing down questions, and I've got them here. Some of them are duplicates, so we won't have to ask them, more than once. After every 4 or 5 questions, I'll ask one of the audience questions. Also, we're going to make it so that whoever starts with the first question, the next person next to them will start with the next one, and the next one will start with them, so it keeps rotating so that the same person is not always first or last. Because I think if you were last every time, you get the benefit of hearing the other 4 people's answers before. And, that's the best place to be. And being the first is not necessarily the best place to be. So we're going to keep it rotating. Also, our highly trained timekeeper, Vance, is going to keep everybody on time. He's going to hold up cards, let you know when you have 30 seconds left and 10 seconds left. And when the time is up, be prepared for the repercussions if you haven't stopped talking. Each question, since we have a lot of questions, we're going to start with, and see if it works, we're going to start with 1-minute response for each question. And if rebuttal is necessary, which sometimes there is in a forum, we'll allow an additional 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute for a closing statement. And we would like in particular, in your opening comments, if you would tell us why you're interested in politics in general and why you're interested in the District 31 race in particular. And so with that, we'll start with B right here on the left. 2 minutes for an opening statement.
First of all, let me thank you all for being here, and thank you to the Ladies Club and to the Tea Party for having this. This is a wonderful opportunity for us. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. You hear me? Okay.
Why don't you guys stand up when you talk? Yeah, let's do that. When it's your turn to speak, stand up.
Yeah, sometimes it looks like I'm standing when I'm sitting, but that's okay. That's all right. I am running for this position because I believe that I can bring to the table, to Tallahassee, some collaboration, less polarization, and more collaboration to get work done. I'm a moderate conservative. I've been advocating in Tallahassee since 1989 for patients and students and teachers and nurses, and I want to vote. I'm a registered nurse and a former teacher and guidance counselor, And I know from experience and with my education just how critical it is. We're at a juncture in Florida where we need to make a difference. We need to stop some of the infighting. There may be things on both sides of the aisle up there that we may never agree on. But I think that there's some things that we can start with. I think there's some basic values that maybe we can begin, and then negotiate the rest of them. In negotiations and collaborations, you never get everything you want. But I can bring to the table what we need to get things done. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing and a Master's of Science degree in counseling and psychology, and tons of experience in both of those areas. I'm a woman of faith. I am a parish nurse at my church, and a community leader, and I would certainly appreciate your vote. And I look forward to answering these questions. Thank you so very much.
Well, good evening. My name is Jennifer Sullivan, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to attend this candidate forum, and I feel very much that I'm at home in this room, having been at the very first Tea Party back in 2009 when it first started, and a member of the Lake Federated Republican Women's Club. Thank you all for coming out, and for those of you who are joining us for the very first time. And I want to just take a moment. If you were here in 2009 at the very first Tea Party, would you mind just standing up real quick? I'd love to honor you, and thank you. You are one of the reasons why I'm here, because you're about freedom. You're about limited government, fiscal responsibility. You're about free market solutions, and that's what I'm about. I'm running because I want to be a champion of freedom. Our rights, our liberties are being taken away left and right. And now more than ever, we need individuals who will step up and look at running for office as a means to serve the public, to represent people, not special interest groups. I have a track record in this community. I'm a part of many of the organizations, political organizations in this community, and I believe that actions speak a lot louder than words. And I encourage you, as you listen this evening, listen to the words, but think back to the actions that you've seen, the people who have been here day in and day out fighting for the things that the Tea Party stands for, that the Lake Federated Republican Women's Club stands for. Education is a huge issue. Common Core is a huge issue within our education system. Water, limited government, fiscal responsibility, these types of issues are issues that I look forward to addressing tonight and going further in detail. But I want you to know, please don't leave this evening without having all your questions answered. Please come see me personally, because I want you to leave tonight knowing who you're going to support, even if that's not me, because we have to get involved, we have to be engaged, and the candidate, your state representative, is going to be decided in this primary, and I encourage you to work very diligently for them.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. I'm really looking forward to this. As I look around at this panel of people we have running, each person committed out here for right reasons. No one here just because they want to hear their name said out in public. Each and every one of us are here trying to make a difference in the community. I come as a veteran, as a corporate fraud investigator. I deal continuously with what's going on in the courts and the foreclosure industry. And so our land title records and protecting our rights, standing up for our veterans, making sure that we have the right people out here, and the people that are going to stand every time on the side of the Constitution. Not 80%, as some of our well-known politicians have come out and said, oh, I vote 80% in line with the Constitution. Okay, 20% of the time, then we need to prosecute you. We can't stand for this anymore. Every time we let another one of our rights go, we bring ourselves closer and closer to losing all voice, and all opportunity. So for our children that are in the room, and for their futures and the opportunities to really make a difference, we have to stand, and we have to make these differences now. We have to stand against the Agenda 21 and the Common Core and these other vehicles that are being used to strip away those rights. But this is the time. This is something we're all going to have to stand together and do now. So you're probably going to hear us each coming from very close to the same place as everyone on the panel is Christian, and all of us are in the business arena, so we're trying to make a difference for you. So we look forward to answering your questions.
Good evening. And again, like we've heard previously, thank you so much for coming out tonight, because this is what makes a difference. I'm Randy Glisson. I'm a small business owner, I'm a chiropractic physician, and I'm a community leader. As a small business owner of Lake Healthcare Center, I make a payroll for 19 employees every single week. When you hear the term overtaxed, overregulated, I deal with that every single day. To come in on a Monday and to look at a payroll that has to be delivered on a Friday, and to have the stress of making sure that those 19 employees are paid, and at times thinking on your feet, maybe getting a line of credit to make sure your business is taken care of. And then the next week, tightening your belt and making the adjustments so your business can go on and flourish. I'm a chiropractic physician. I've helped thousands of patients in this community over the past 27 years. So I understand some of the problems we're also having in healthcare. As a community leader, I've been a part of a lot of boards, and I've given back a lot of time to our community here. I'm a firm believer that the private sector is much better at figuring out some of the problems we have going on than sitting back and relying on our federal government to solve all our problems. You know, my family came here in 1963, and it was a simpler time. I would cringe to think of a family moving into Lake County today, a mom or dad with their family opening a business, putting their children in school. We've got to stop federal government intrusion into our lives. We've seen it now in our health care. We've seen it in our education. I believe the state legislature's role is to push back that federal government intrusion. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, right? My name's Terri Seefeldt, and thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to the Lake Federated Republican Women and the North Lake Tea Party for putting on this great event. First and foremost, I am the proud mother of my son Zachary, who I'm very happy could be here with me tonight. He is a sophomore out at UCF studying to be an engineer, so go Knights, right? But I'm also a businesswoman. I've been in the insurance and financial services field for 27 years. And it's as a mother and a businesswoman that I am deeply concerned about the legacy that we're leaving our children and our grandchildren. How many of you are parents or grandparents out there? So you know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know, when I look on the news and I see things like the labor participation rate is at the lowest it's been since the Carter administration. I see that 1 in 7 families are on food stamps. I see a country that's embracing dependency on federal government and not personal responsibility and liberties. And you say, what can you do about this? Well, you know what? All politics is local. And Florida is my home. It's where I raised my son. It's where I live and I work. And I can step up and make sure that that doesn't happen here. I've also read that already 11 states have more people on social welfare programs than they do working. And I want to make sure Florida doesn't become number 12. That's what I can do. So I look forward to answering your questions tonight, and really appreciate you all being here. Take a time out of your evening. It's very important. Thank you.
All right, let me get into the file here now. I told them nobody was going to know anything about this. Except the NSA, there you go. Okay, we're going to start with one of the popular items. And Betty will be up first. We'll rotate down the line. Did you support Common Core education standards, now known as Next Generation Sunshine State Standards? And if not, would you work to repeal the standards, and what standards would you replace it with? 1 minute.
I'll talk fast. When Common Core first came out, I thought that was a great idea because it gave us a group of standards that our students could learn that they would be globally competitive. This has become such a partisan issue and has morphed into something that is totally ludicrous. It needs to be stopped. I will do everything I can to stop it. And I lobbied for that this past year up in Tallahassee. Stop this right now. What I would like to do with standards is to have the business owners tell us what skills they need from employees, the parents involved, the students involved, and have nationally known research-based educators working on developing some standards. Right now we're just putting a Band-Aid on something that's terribly, terribly broken. So I would like to stop it and start over again and do it right. Our students deserve that. Thank you.
Common Core was policy that was implemented under Charlie Crist and part of Race to the Top back in 2009 when we took stimulus funding from the federal government. And last year when it was being debated in the House, in the last week, I was up there lobbying just as a concerned citizen. And the party establishment being behind Common Core had said, the train has already left the station on Common Core. And at that time I said, well, then that's where we need to derail it. And ever since last April, I've been working vigilantly to make sure that that is derailed. Common Core is more of the federal government intrusion into our lives. And what we need, I'm all for higher standards. I'm all for raising the bar for students. And that's what I've spent the past 5 years of my life doing and working through Team Hack Leadership Schools. But what we need in the replacement of Common Core is we need an education system that is student-centered, not bureaucracy-centered. We need an education system that's going to empower parents to be involved through vouchers. And we need to make sure that control is kept local.
10 more seconds.
Okay. I've been a fighter for Common Core, and in order to get this repealed, we have to send people to Tallahassee who aren't just against Common Core, but who are going to be fighters, who are going to be willing to go against the party, and are going to make sure that parents, students, and teachers are represented.
I'm absolutely against Common Core. I believe that Common Core is one of those vehicles that they're using to try to usher in the Agenda 21 and to really use it as an opportunity to dumb down the community and to bring our young people to the point that they no longer have the ability to think on their own. Really, it's about teaching you what to think, not how. And it's something that needs to be completely eradicated. We as a state need to opt out or nullify this thing. We need to get it completely out of here. We cannot work on correcting it or just modifying it and reshaping it. It needs to be gone. But I have to agree, as you already heard, that this needs to be set up with what is the community needing as far as job skills when they graduate, which is something that most students would be amazed to find out that they can learn how to have a job before they left school, because they don't teach that anymore. So we need to get the communities involved, the business people, and to really focus on bringing out the proper subjects.
Well, Common Core is a top-down approach to government, okay? I believe that we need to have more of a local approach to government. And what works in New York isn't going to work in Lake County. So I would believe that standards ought to be looked at from a state level, and we ought to get plenty of feedback from the local level. I also believe that we need to look to our teachers as well. And we shouldn't have teachers teaching to a text that they should help and participate as well and with parents in coming up with standards. So Common Core is a top-down approach to government that will not work in Lake County.
I think for far too long our education system has put too much emphasis on a single day test. And our children get so stressed out and everything's all about that test, because if they don't pass that test or they have a bad day, you don't know what happened on the day they came to school. and they have a bad day, and the next thing you know, they don't get promoted, or the school doesn't get its funding because everything is centered around one test. So I am not for the Common Core in the form it is, and I think too much emphasis has been put all along the way on trying to drive every child to college. Not every child needs to go to college. Not every child wants to go to college. We still need people with skills like mechanics and AC workers and plumbers and machinists. And I think we should have a dual track at every school for kids that want to go the vocational route versus the college route. And Lake VOTAC right here in town is doing a great job of that, and we need to keep on supporting it because they're going to be the future for a lot of our kids. Thank you.
Okay, for our next question, we're going to start with Jennifer. Do you support Constitutional Ballot Amendment 2, the Florida Right to Medical Marijuana Initiative, which goes before the voters in November of 2014, which would legalize the cultivation, purchase, possession, and use of marijuana to treat medical conditions when recommended by a licensed physician?
As it stands, what's going to be on the ballot, I'm not in support of that. However, I was very encouraged to see the state legislature taking action. Governor Chris just signed the Charlotte's Web legislation yesterday that would help. Sorry. What did I say?
Chris.
Oh, I was just talking about Chris. Governor Scott signed yesterday regarding the Charlotte's Web piece of legislation that had to do with the non-euphoric type of medical marijuana that would specifically help children and that are suffering from seizures. I think that God has given us natural resources that we should be able to use to those who are ill. And we need to find ways where we can do those in a legal manner. However, the way that it's worded in on the ballot, I think is one step closer to becoming another Colorado or another California. And I think that it would hurt the quality of life that we have here in Florida. So to answer the question as it stands on the ballot, no. But at the same time, I believe we do need to be helping those who are suffering and are in pain.
You got to watch Vance, he'll actually shoot you down. I believe that the medical marijuana is something that is going to come into being. It's something that I would support, but again, as you said, I'd like to see some changes. I really appreciate what we did in Charlotte's Web. That's something that, it's not something you can get high on. You know, it treats a medical situation, but it's not about getting high. And really, those are the things that we need to work on. They need to say that you can't use any of these things that are going to be heat processed, because in the heat processing, that's what generates that portion of it. They need to do things that are cold processed. That's only about treating the medical need, and again, not making just another excuse for alcohol or recreational drugs. That's, you know, we need to be smart. We need to be holistic. We need to use as few of the pharmaceuticals as possible, and this is something that's probably as time has come.
I would be against the amendment that's going to be on the ballot. I don't want to see, one of the biggest problems I have with the medical marijuana issue is that the amendment is too broad, and that, you know, we're going to be seeing people with mild headaches get prescribed marijuana. The other problem I have with this amendment is I'm scared of the smoke shops and the dispensary and the grow shops coming, you know, to our rural Lake County. So I agree that it is a drug, and it does have benefits if they're proven scientifically to be able to, which they have been, to help small children, maybe some end-of-life issues. Then let's look at a way of having it through a pharmacy. But having it as a smoke shop is not the way to go.
I'm okay with the Charlotte's Web legislation, but the ballot initiative in the form that it is, I am not for. According to Attorney General Pam Bondi, she stated that the ballot initiative in its current form actually does not require parental consent. So her concern was you could have a 14-year-old kid that says, I'm really stressed out about my exams tomorrow, that could potentially, with the right doctors, get a prescription. So that's a real problem. And also I think we've seen enough evidence in Colorado of what a nightmare this can become when you have drug cartels moving in that are blending in with the shops. The accompanying states on the outside are having to increase their police patrols because people are carrying the substance outside the state of Colorado. So to their neighbors, it's become a big problem. So I do not support the ballot in its current form.
Okay. The ballot initiative deals with medical marijuana, not smoke shops, not anything that's euphoric. It's all non-euphoric. I don't think there'd be a problem with children because to go to a doctor you need parental consent to go get a prescription. So I don't think that's a concern. As a former psychiatric nurse, I don't want anything that's going to lead to more addictions. I've worked at Lifestream Behavioral Center as a nurse, and that concerns me a lot. But this is medical marijuana only. There's nothing recreational about it. Those who want to get high don't want this stuff because it's non-euphoric. It's used for children with severe seizures, and I can tell you later, I don't have time now, I've got less than 10 seconds, about a family that's very near and dear to me that is really trying to help their son. So, thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to start with Joseph this time. Do you support expansion of legal gaming in Florida, including allowing more casinos, internet cafes, etc.?
I guess I'll give you the short answer first. No. I know that we have these things. I know that it's been successful. It's brought a lot of industry to Florida. There's been, some benefits with it, but I'm just not a fan of gambling. I find it to be more addictive than most of the drugs I've heard of out there. It's something that we really need to keep a strong eye on. I'm just not for making it easier and developing it out so that it's in all of our little communities. Every place that I know of that has gambling, there is a crime center based around that gambling, and Lake County's just not that kind of place.
Yes, I would be against bringing casino-style gambling to Florida. As I said earlier, our family moved here in 1963, and I can remember when Disney World first opened in Orlando. And Florida is thought of as a family-friendly state. And people from around the world, people from around the United States, when they come to Florida, they like the idea of coming to a family-friendly state. I think we spent a lot of money on that brand, and I think we leave the casino-style gambling out in Las Vegas, and we continue to promote our family destination brand.
How many of you have been to Las Vegas? How many of you want that here? Me neither, the end. No, I don't support expansion of gambling. No.
Okay, it's 5-0 here. No, I do not think we need to expand gambling in Florida. It is a family state. We have family functions, family recreation, family amusements, and this is something that we do not need to have inundated in our state. So I would protect keeping gambling, any expansion of it out. Thank you.
To be perfectly honest, I find the conversation that we continue to have about gambling frustrating because the people of Florida have voted now in the past 20 years, over 4 times, have voted against the expansion of gambling. Yet you see our state legislature year after year continuing to put dollars towards research, continuing to try to push their agenda. I believe that 120 representatives that represent the people of Florida should stand with the people. They voted, they've spoken, and I would stand for the people, and that would be to continue to be against gambling.
See, that's why we are doing a minute for the questions, because some of them will be nice and short and sweet. Maybe a little bit more than no or yes. I know that's safe. Okay, Randy, we're going to start with you this time.
Okay.
Do you support the Article 5 Convention of the States process that is being spearheaded by Senator Alan Hayes and Representative Larry Metz in Senate Memorandum 476 to make amendments to the U.S. Constitution, such as term limits for legislatures and Supreme Court justices?
Yes, I would support that measure, and if we have enough states that push through that measure, then we can have a constitutional convention, and we can look at trying to overturn some of the executive federal government decisions that have been made. So yes, I would be for the Senate memorial presented by recently presented by Alan Hayes and supported in the House by Larry Metz.
Yes, I would support that measure, and you know, some people say, well, we already have term limits in Congress because, you know, every 4 to 6 years people get to vote them out. But I will tell you, as a friend of someone who's running for a U.S. congressional seat now against an incumbent, it's a machine. And when you try to oust an incumbent, especially on a U.S. level, it is extremely difficult. It takes a lot of funding. You have to rely on a lot of industry political action committees to get your word out because you can't possibly walk a district that's that big. And industry campaigns and PACs very rarely will support anyone but an incumbent because they know statistically it is very difficult to get them out of office. So even if the new person is a qualified candidate, it is almost impossible to oust an incumbent unless they've just done something extremely egregious. So yes, I would support that amendment.
I agree for all the same reasons.
How many of you have read Mark Levine's book, The Liberty Amendments? All right, just a few of you. In there, Mark Levine's book, The Liberty Amendments. In there, he talks about term limits. He talks about a balanced budget amendment. He speaks about what would happen if the states went back to voting on their federal senators that would represent the state from the legislature. And all of those things individually I agree with. However, I think when you're talking about looking at modifying our Constitution that our founding fathers put together that has served us so well over the years, to me that's a very serious matter. And I think that though I agree with the idea of what we need, I think agreeing to support that without understanding how those people will be chosen from each state, how they will represent us, the rules of how the process will work, those haven't been defined. And so I can't put my stamp of approval on it not being aware of all those details. However, the premise of it, the amendments that they want to propose, I am supportive individually of those.
And I'm going to have to agree with Jennifer. This is the problem we face so often, is that they come up with something great and awesome that they want to do for we the people, and unfortunately they don't set out the proper guidelines. They don't put in the details of what is this really going to mean, how is it really going to happen, and that's why we have things like these bills that they come out and they say, oh, well, you have to pass it before you can read it.
Right.
You know, this is a massive problem, and we really need these things more defined. Absolutely, we need term limits. To have these people that are running roughshod over it, that they're living up here in D.C., they're completely cut off from their communities. They don't know what the people are doing. It's not like down here where we go to Tallahassee for a short period of time and we spend the rest of our time back here in the district. So it's an important matter. I really would like more information on it, but as she said, it currently as it stands, it's hard to support, but we do need these issues.
Okay, we're going to start with Terry this time. What sets you apart, and why should the voters select you for our representative to District 31 over the other candidates running for the position?
Okay. Well, you get asked that question a lot. So the one thing I would say is I've been traveling to Tallahassee for the last 19 years as a citizen advocating for the clients that we represent and serve. And I've spent time talking to legislators about bills and why they work, why they don't work. We've worked on bills on the back end of the process. I've testified at hearings before the House and Senate special subcommittees on the Affordable Care Act, and I've testified for the Office of Insurance Regulation. I have the business background and know the workings of Tallahassee, and I feel that I would be very qualified to go there and represent the people. Thank you.
I've been going to Tallahassee since about 1989, advocating for teachers and students and nurses and our environment. And I know where things are. I know how to analyze the bills. I know how to check for the fiscal impact. I know how to look at the staff analysis of these things. I can track them down. I've done my homework. I know how to do it. And now I want to vote. I want to vote for you. I want to vote for the constituents all over District 31. I have a broad base of education and experience, and I want to take all of those factors and all of that time and effort into Tallahassee so that I can make a difference and cut down unfunded mandates and state intrusion on our local government. We need more local control. Thank you.
There are three main things that set me apart from the other candidates: my work ethic, my passion, and my investment in this community. My work ethic. Nobody else is working harder in this race to earn your vote by knocking on doors and walking every single day. Secondly, my passion. Nobody else here is more passionate than I am about the issues, and I will bring that same passion to the floor of the Florida House and representing your concerns, the concerns that I've heard, not because I've just put together talking points, but because I've been speaking to people at their doors in this community for the past year in this race and beyond. And thirdly, my investment in this community. I'm the only candidate who's a member of the North Lake Tea Party, a member of the Lake Federated Republicans Women's Club. I'm the only one who's on the Lake County Party and sits on the board as well. I have a proven track record of fighting for these issues, and I will bring that to the Florida House to represent you, not special interest groups.
I'm a corporate fraud investigator. My full-time job is taking on these massive corporations, finding out the places that, what it is that they're doing, how they're ripping off the citizens. And so banking and judicial reforms are truly some of my greatest concerns. But as a veteran, as a father and a business owner, someone that's grown up in these communities, I remember you used to be able to drive down these roads and you didn't see all these buildings and houses. It was land and lots of places to fish and hunt. And we're really coming to the point now that we're losing all of our rights to use those lands, to use the things that God has given us. They're trying to take it away from us. So, more than anything, I'm a constitutional Republican. I want to make sure that we keep our Constitution, that we take care of our veterans, that we have preserved our rights, and I don't mean rights to hunt, but rights to bear arms, our rights to remain as we are as families and not just partakers.
Well, as I've said before, my family moved here in 1963. So I consider this, this is my backyard. And growing up in this community has been the best experience a child, a young adult, and a working adult could ever have. As a business owner, every day that's down there making decisions, that's truly dealing with regulations and taxes and understands what it takes to make a business click. Okay? Also, as a healthcare provider, has a pretty good radar on what's going on with this federal government intrusion on our healthcare. I want to take that experience in community, that experience in business and in healthcare, and I want to represent my constituents in Tallahassee.
Okay, we're going to start the rotation with B again. This is our first audience question. It's a very short and direct question. What is your stand on gun control?
I follow the Constitution. I'm a rule follower. You are guaranteed the right to bear arms, and I will fight for that continuously. I will not let that go away.
I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment, and I think it's vitally important that we elect people who understand that right and who understand state sovereignty and will fight back against the federal government who continues to try to intrude on our state rights and would love nothing more than intrude on our Second Amendment right as a state as well. And so I will be a fighter for that. I believe that people kill people, guns don't kill people, and that it's proven in society that when you remove guns and you don't allow people to bear arms, that the people that are safe, that are good at gun control, the people that are respectful, reasonable, law-abiding citizens, then are no longer able to arm themselves. And the people who would use it for harm then are empowered to do so because you've taken away the right of the people for them to be able to defend themselves. And that is why I'm a proud supporter of the Second Amendment.
I guess, as I said just a second ago, I absolutely support the Second Amendment. I heard one of our brilliant congressmen a few months back saying that if guns weren't on shelves, people wouldn't buy them. When was the last time you saw meth on a shelf? You know, people still buy it. So, you know, the reason that we have the Second Amendment, the reason that we have this right is to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, which every day right now it looks like we're getting a little closer to one. So we absolutely need to keep our Second Amendment rights. As a U.S. veteran, I will make sure that we do absolutely everything we can to maintain those rights. I realize I'm only one of the many that's up there voting, but for all that's within me, we'll keep our Second Amendment.
Yes, I'm also a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I can remember the first BB gun I got at Christmas, and I can remember the first .22 rifle I had, and it was a handed down from my dad's dad to me. So yes, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. And I also recently took the concealed weapons class 2 years ago, and so I saw how that process goes. And so yes, Americans have the right to bear arms. We have the right to defend ourselves. So it's part of who we are.
Yes, I do support the Second Amendment, and I am a proud member of the NRA. I also... people own guns for a variety of reasons. Obviously, hunting, fishing, or not fishing, you're not going to fish with a gun. It's a big fish. Hunting and self-protection, of course, and invasion from foreign governments, but as Joseph said, also from protection from a tyrannical government. I do believe in gun rights, and I made sure when my son was younger, he joined Boy Scouts. We were very involved in Boy Scouts, and one of the first things they teach the boys is gun safety. And when kids know gun safety, they have less accidents, and it's a lot safer for society. So I'm very much a supporter of the Second Amendment.
Okay, now Jennifer, do you think there are too many state regulations, and what would you do to scale them back?
Overwhelmingly, yes. as I've been knocking on doors, as I've been talking to individuals, as I've been talking to small business owners in downtown Mount Dora, all of them have said that there are so many regulations on them, so many hoops they have to jump through, so many duplicative regulations that are come from state government and then local government as well. And so what I'm committed to doing when I get up to Tallahassee is taking the advice that I've gotten from the business owners who are working day in and day out and taking those advice and creating legislation that will remove red tape, that will remove the bureaucracy that has been established there. It's so important that we are pro-business, that we are business-friendly, and not just to one industry, but there are so many different industries represented in this district, in Orange County and Lake County alike, and we must be pro-business, and we must lessen the amount of government that is placed upon individuals and businesses as a whole.
I know you're not going to let me get away with saying ditto. But absolutely, these, the problem is, as just stated, that we have so many duplicate regulations out there that are being at the city and the state and the county and the federal levels that we have to overcome. And for business owners, these things are just crushing. I mean, they would like to be hiring more people. They'd like to have more employees, but they just, in keeping up with all the regulation, it's nearly impossible. So we need to take a good, strong look at it. We need to see where there is 3 to 10 different regulations on the same thing, and we need to just streamline this down to make it realistic. It seems to me like they should have a long time ago came out and said no new laws. You know, let's enforce what we have. They keep bringing up all these different subjects. Oh, we need a law for this. We have laws for it. Let's enforce them. Immigration, all these different things they keep bringing up. We have a law. Let's use it. We don't need a new law.
Well, as one of those business owners, I can tell you I deal with regulations every single day of the week. And if it's city license, county license, state license, x-ray license, healthcare license, license after license after license. And I tell you, what I see is, let's say there's 7 different agencies, and you have to be able to provide each one of these agencies with a clearance or a letter. You know, let's look at making one global letter to be able to present to each agency so that businesses aren't every day in a compliance manual. As a business owner, when you walk into your office, instead of being concerned about this huge compliance regulatory manual that keeps growing and growing and growing, and you can't concentrate on your product and services, okay, and you're just concentrating on regulation, you can't create jobs and you can't grow an economy.
The business that I'm in is selling health insurance to businesses. So you can imagine the regulation we've been dealing with for the last 4.5 years with the wonderful Obamacare. So we are inundated with it. Part of the problem with regulations is people always have good intentions and they always feel like they're doing it for the public good, but very little regard is often given to the cost of that mandate or that regulation. And I could give you an example, one example. In Florida, part of what raises people's health care costs is we have 54 mandated benefits, all well-intended, all done by people who wanted a certain thing covered because they had a family member that had a condition or a child that something wasn't covered. But our statute had required that anytime you add a mandate, it was supposed to be evaluated for the cost impact. Well, amazingly, they never had the money for the cost impact. So costs continue to rise and mandates continue to get added. These are the kind of things we need to look at. That's just one example of good intentions with no regard to cost.
One of the things that is a right or a responsibility of a legislator is being able to present bills for more laws. That's not a goal of mine. We have too many laws now. One of the things you can do unrestricted number of is repeal all. And there are some bills in the statute now that I would like to repeal. And I would work to do that, to reduce the amount of bills up there and the issues that are handled in state statute. More of this stuff can be handled on the local level, and the redundancy needs to stop. I agree that we don't need to have legislation and restrictions that need to be done and documented over and over and over. So repeal all is going to be one of my favorite things to do. Introducing new bills will probably not.
Okay, Joe. Constitutional Ballot Amendment 1, the Florida Water and Land Conservation Initiative, which goes before the voters in November 2014, calls for 1/3 of the dock stamp revenue collected in the state of Florida, that among other conservation provisions, calls for the state to purchase more public lands. In 2012, 33% of the land in Florida was owned by the federal, state, and local governments. Do you support this amendment, and do you think the state of Florida should continue to acquire more land?
No. Honestly, again, all this is coming back into your Agenda 21 and the other things that we're talking about. This taking over of all the land, taking up all the, acquiring it into the government so the government can control it. We're a free nation. We the people control it. This is supposed to be our lands, and these are supposed to be our property. So I'm not at all for the state just acquiring more property. There's not a benefit to it. It doesn't turn a profit for the state. If the state owns it, we're not receiving taxes on it. If we're not receiving taxes on it, how does it benefit the state? So no, I'm not for this at all.
I agree. No, I would not be for it either. I say instead of spending your time buying up new property for the state, let's spend your time concentrating on small businesses. 90% of the businesses in the state of Florida are small businesses with 12 or fewer employees. That's 90%. So instead of concentrating on big business, bringing big business to Florida, which that's good, let's start concentrating on small business, and let's look at how we can bring small business to be better job creators, so again our economy continues to move forward.
I believe the first part of the question was about the 30% allotment built into the statute for the water, right? Or building
A third of the dock stamp revenue is going to be used to purchase more public land.
No, I don't like that that's put into the Constitution. The legislature should have the flexibility to use the dock stamps as needed, as different things come and go, because what if they don't need the money for that and they need it somewhere else? If it's statutorily in the Constitution, you can't move that money around. So I don't agree with that. And I also do not agree that the state needs to be buying any more land at this point. We probably own too much already, and there's a high cost to maintaining all that land. So that's always another issue. So no on both of those. Thank you.
It's unanimous. No, I don't think we need to acquire more government-owned land, and I certainly don't think that we need to restrict any of the dock stamps revenue. I think that what we need to do is to protect the land that we have. The environment is a big draw for our district, for Apopka and Lake County. Businesses come to an area where they can have parks, streams, fishing, rivers, those kinds of things where their employees want to enjoy life. We have businesses, we have enterprises that come to our area for bass fishing, lots of tournaments and things that are revenue producing for our district. So no, we don't need to add to the coffers. We don't need to add more land. I don't believe we need to restrict the use of the dock stamps, but I think we need to protect what we've got for our new businesses and for our citizens.
I too don't believe that the state government should be in the land business. I think you're taking away property rights, and you can continue to see that from our state legislature. I think that it's very interesting that if you follow, you can always follow the money trail to get to the root of the issue. And when you look at the people we have elected in our state, and over the past few years, the land that they have individually acquired or already had before they went up to Tallahassee, and then the lands that were then purchased by the state from those individuals and those elected officials that stood to benefit quite a great deal financially from the land that the state acquired that they had personally owned. I think that we have a real issue with that. I don't believe that the state should be in the land business, acquiring land, and I think it's vitally important that we elect people who understand the role of government, the limited role that they have. We need help with businesses. We need people spending the time on fixing our education system, doing things that are within their role, and land is not one of them.
Okay, Randy. The annual state budget is required to be balanced, but the gross amount keeps going up. The 2013 budget was $74.5 billion, which increased to $77 billion in 2014, which was an increase of $2.5 billion. What should be done to reverse the trend, and what items would you like to see cut out of the state budget?
Well, $77 billion is a lot of dollars. And I know $41 billion of it is healthcare, Medicaid. So I think one of the first things we start to look at is how do we go about solving this healthcare crisis problem we're having. And, you know, we have some of the best healthcare doctors and nurses in the world. I can't think of anywhere else where I would want to be to have a medical procedure done. But we do have a problem with the cost of health care. And so $41 billion of $77 billion being health care, we've got to get our hands around that, and we've got to bring doctors, businesses, hospitals, patients to the table, and we've got to figure out how we correct this problem.
Well, when you hear that our state is almost on the verge of being the second largest, most populous state in the country, it makes sense that our budget might be growing because we have more people and are, moving to our area, and our population is growing. So, and hopefully that also means that more people are paying taxes because our unemployment figures have gotten a little bit better. So hopefully there's more revenues going into the state. But Randy's correct. Medicaid takes up 1/3 of our budget, practically, and that's a huge expense. And there's a lot of abuses in that system that definitely need to be addressed. This is something we've been talking about for a long time, and I feel I'm equipped to help sit on that committee. I actually teach continuing education to CPAs. I taught a class yesterday out at the airport to a group of CPAs on the Affordable Care Act, because a lot of it's taxes. And I feel like I would be equipped to help really look at the HHS and Medicaid and Medicare services, and because it all ties in together with private health care and reduce those costs. Thank you.
I agree that health care is a critical issue for the state of Florida. My stand on this is not always a popular stand, but I stand up for it anyway because I stand up for what I believe. The Medicaid money that we have paid to the federal government is our money. We paid it to them. If we don't take it back, they're going to give it to another state. I want our money back. I don't think we need to expand the criteria for getting onto Medicaid, but I think that we need to have those dollars. Somebody's got to pay for them when they go to the emergency room. As a nurse, I know we've got to stop sending people to the emergency room for primary care, and I think that getting our money back would help. Thank you.
to the state budget, obviously there's a lot of different industries, agencies, and you need to look across the board and see what could be cut, what could be streamlined. We already talk about all the regulations on businesses. Removing some of those would remove some of the state employees we have to oversee those regulations. But how many of you read the Orlando Sentinel when they talked about all the special projects that were included in the budget? All right, there was a lot of money that was spent on special projects, and I think it's interesting that you see almost a sense of entitlement amongst our elected officials as they move further up in the ranks, as they've been there several more years, that means they get to take more of their money home to their district and their special pet projects. What I would love to see is when we have a budget surplus, let's give it more back to the people. I think that it was great that we helped lower the DMV fees again, those taxes that never went up, just the fees went up. I think it would be great to see if we continued to lower those back and gave you more of your money back instead of investing in those special projects. That's how I would cut the budget.
I understand that as a natural thing, our budget is probably going to continue to increase because, face it, this is Florida. As people were up there where it gets really cold decide that they don't want to live there anymore because they're too old to be shoveling that stuff, they all move down here. So, but the good news is that most of them are bringing with them a lifetime of savings and a lifetime of development. Every year we add on more and more things to our budget. We add more people doing the jobs that someone else is already doing. We need to stop this growth of hiring more and more federal employees. I appreciate that we have one of the best benefit programs statewide for employees, but at the same time, we need to quit increasing the amount of state employees that we have. We need to figure out where these people are being duplicated, and we need to stop it.
Okay, Terry. This past session introduced Senate Bill 1576, House Bill 1313, the Springs Protection Act, which is the one with the septic tanks, which proposed actions to address Florida's future water quality and water quantity needs. This specific legislation failed due to opposition in the House. However, our new Speaker of the House, Steve Crisafilli, has proposed major water policy developments next session. What Florida water policy changes, if any, do you support?
Well, I recently went to a water summit that was at the Coalition for Property Rights, and they had the Deputy Director of the Florida Environmental Protection Agency there. He's a great speaker. And he talked about the Springs Bill, and I think there's been hopefully some cooperation between the members of the coalition and David Simmons' office, who was one of the people that put that bill together. They were very much against some of his mandated septic tank replacement because people can't afford it. There's the biggest challenge with our springs is the nutrient pollution and nitrogen phosphorus is what the gentleman said from there. The state's responsibility is to determine where the water is and how it flows and where we need to have water resources. So as our population grows, we need to always make sure that we have plenty of water for drinking first and foremost, and that it's clean and quality water. So quantity and quality will be the responsibility of the state.
As I talk to small business owners who have nurseries and ferneries and agribusiness around, they're really concerned about the water source. Very, very concerned. I personally think we need to stop pumping so much water. The Sentinel had a picture in a diagram a couple of months ago where they said that rather than drawing off water or pumping it out from an aquifer at this level, they were going to go deeper to that level. The next day, there was another picture of another sinkhole in Florida. Now, I remember from my geology classes that if you keep taking something out, something's going to collapse. It's got that chance to collapse. And so I think that we need to protect and really research what and how we're pumping our water to protect our homes. Thank you.
Aside from education, I think water is one of the leading issues that will have the greatest effect on the quality of life in the next foreseeable 20 years or more. And I think it's really important that, again, we elect people who will stand on the side of property owners' rights. CPR does a great job of informing people and writing legislation and fighting against bad legislation. I think that when we hear clean water, when we hear Springs Acts, those things sound good. However, a lot of times, the devil's in the details, and a lot of those initiatives and that legislation is taking rights away from property owners. And water is a huge issue. We have the Lake County Water Authority here, and I've been to their meetings. I've been to St. John's Water Management District. Everyone has different roles to play, but you don't see them in collaboration working together very well. There's a lot of duplicative efforts, and I think it's important that we come together proactively in looking at this issue, and I would side on property rights and making sure that they're represented at the table.
Looking at the stuff of the Springs Act, as they talk about what they want to do and how they're planning on organizing this, none of the data that they provided showed that there would be any real benefit to us doing this. We're spending many millions or billions of dollars for something that we don't got the slightest clue if it's going to help us or not. So we'd be better off not spending the money and using it where we do know we have a difference. I know the water rights are extremely important. It doesn't matter if you own the land or if you just rent somewhere, you still need water. You can't live without it. But we have these different massive companies that are pumping the water out of our aquifer, shallow or deep, and it's leaving the state. It's not like it's getting used and returned here. So we have a lot of issues. We have a lot of things that we need to overcome. But first and foremost, the government needs to back off, and the Springs Act, as it is I'm not for it.
I agree. We don't need another mandate on homeowners. We don't need to continue to infringe upon property rights. You know, it is certainly important that we have clean water to drink, and we have water to be able to have our agriculture, and we certainly want to protect our lakes and our springs that are a vital part of our growing up and being here in Lake County. So as we move forward, I think it's going to be important 20 years down the road to invest in infrastructure, to have water plants that are going to be capable of providing us clean water. And it's going to be important to have our commodities to be able to be given water for vital growth. So it'll be on my radar.
Okay, B. What do your constituents tell you is the most pressing issue facing District 31, and what will you do about it?
Lots of things. But one of the things that has come up lately, and it really kind of took me aback, because what they've said is their quality of life is not what it has been in the past. They fear for their safety. We have folks who are being robbed in their homes. It used to be that you could go shopping at Target or Walmart 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. People are afraid to go during the day now because people are robbed. I think we need to do something about safety. It's causing people to lose the ability to want to go to the movies, to go shopping, to do visiting, and we need to let people do that. And I think mental health concerns need to be addressed because there's such a stigma attached to getting mental health treatment and care. And that's what's causing it. Irrational people do irrational things.
Without fail, on a daily basis when I'm at the door, the number one issue that comes up is education. And a lot of people have found out about Common Core. And when I talk to people, whether they're grandparents, whether they're just coming out of school, or whether they're parents with children in the system, even people who don't have students in the system, they see that our education is centered around the test. It's not centered around the students anymore. One, with Common Core, parents can't help their students with their school anymore because they don't understand the homework they're coming home with. Teachers' hands have become tied, and they have so much paperwork they have to fill out that they're not able to spend the time on their students. They're having to parent and teach oftentimes at the same time. And so it's really important that we, especially in Lake County, handle education in such a way that's also going to help our economy. Because in Lake County, it's a dual-sided issue. If you get a better quality education, jobs will come to the area, people will locate here, and so that's what I'm committed to doing as a state representative.
For myself, I actually see it being kind of split between healthcare and education. As we're all aware, Lake County has a very rapidly aging population, but if we're not focusing on the education of our young people, of the people coming along behind us, if we don't dedicate ourselves to that, we're really going to be left out. We have to prepare for the future, but at the same time, we have really massive healthcare needs out here in this area. We have, you know, the facilities that we have, they honestly need to be upgraded. We need, it needs to be easier for people to get around. Many of the areas that you go to, as you try to walk from shop to shop, not all areas are really prepared for that. The urban environment that we're in is difficult to get around. So I think we should work a little bit more on our transportation, but we need to really focus on our medical and on the education.
Well, what I'm hearing from voters and constituents is they're concerned about the health care. And they certainly are not for Obamacare. And I am not for Obamacare either. I don't think we need to do the 3-year look at the Medicaid expansion either. I think what we need to do, again, is we need to, as a state, we need to figure out how we're going to do our health care delivery. So I would say the biggest thing I hear about from constituents is health care. So that would be one of the things that I would do first. The second thing is education. I do hear people, parents, they're concerned about Washington determining what's best for their children. We want that to be determined at a local level. So stopping federal government intrusion, stopping federal government controlling our health care, and controlling our education is what I would be an advocate for.
In talking with business owners every day, the common theme I hear from them is that there's a lack of a skilled workforce, and not just lack of skills, sometimes lack of dedication to coming to work and showing up on time. I'm amazed at the number of employers that say, we go through this entire interview process and the person never even shows up for the first day of work. Or they sit and text all day long on their smartphones. And so I think if you're going to prepare children for being good employees, they need to be respectful of their work environment, and that needs to either start at home, you know, or we need to teach some kind of ethic classes in school, because business owners are very frustrated by this. We also hear about, as Randy said, healthcare. It is a huge expense for employers. They're very concerned about the future. They don't know. Uncertainty breeds a lot of things, and people don't want to grow or expand their businesses when there's so much cost, uncertainty, and overhead.
Okay, Jennifer, I'm going to ask you the next audience question. How can we assure Florida elections are fair? Examples: Allen West's election, military votes, corruption of electronic voting.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, obviously we have rules we have laws on the books, but if those aren't enforced, then anything goes. And so I think that all politics is local, and it really starts by the people that you're putting into leadership. Are you really vetting your candidates? Are you electing people of integrity and character? Because you can, sit up here all day long and say all the right things, but if we elect people at the end of the day who aren't of integrity, who won't hold to a higher standard, who don't have the backbone to make the hard calls and tough decisions, then they're going to not follow the rules. And you can see that if they're not going to follow the rules from the beginning, they're certainly not going to follow the rules on a statewide. So as a state representative, I would make sure that we're cracking down on that individually and go to the different departments that can handle that. Because obviously, quite honestly, as a state representative, you can't do any one individual thing to make sure there's no voter fraud. You can try to pass more laws, but we have those, so you need to make sure those people are being held accountable.
I have to agree wholeheartedly on holding them accountable. As I look around and I look at the people that are in office now, the things that happen, and the things that our politicians are getting caught with, and nothing happens. We held Eric Holder in contempt, and then nobody did anything. We have people at different legislative levels that we've taken action against, but nothing happens. There's no recourse. There's no punishment. It was bad boy, don't do that again. We have to stop this. We need to every time, the first time they're caught doing one of these things, they need to be punished. It needs to be financially costly for them. And we, the people, need to make a point of not voting for them anymore. We have to get the corruption out, all of it. The first time a politician lies to you, the first time he tells you that he's going to do one thing and does the other, do yourself a favor and me, vote for the other guy.
Okay, and the question was how are we going to deal with voter fraud, Walter?
How can we assure Florida elections are fair?
Right. Well, okay. I think one way we can assure Florida elections are fair is to make sure that tax-paying Floridians are voting. And so I guess we would look at some of the illegal aliens that possibly could be making it into our voter booths. So what I hear is we want to make sure that when you have an election in the state of Florida, or you have an election in a county, you want to make sure that those people are voting that deserve the right to vote, and the people that shouldn't be voting are not. Thank you.
I was watching the elections in Afghanistan the other night, and people were dipping their fingers into the dye and holding up their fingers, and I said, that's what we need to be doing over here, because that's one way to ensure you've only voted one time, right? So it's a very simple solution, but it might work. But the one thing as citizens, we're allowed to be poll watchers, and that's sometimes the best deterrent, is to be at the place where voting is occurring to make sure that it's being done right. And I believe each candidate is allowed to send one poll worker, if I'm not mistaken, to a poll. So as citizens, you can get involved and volunteer to be a poll worker and make sure that the elections in your backyard and in your neighborhood are fair and that they're being done according to the plan. So if you want to stop it, it starts with all of us. Thank you.
I believe in data-driven problem solving. And I think first we've got to decide what is the problem. And we would need to survey all the different districts in Florida and find out who did it right, who did it wrong, and what were the concerns. And those who did it right can then share their methods with those who had the problems. We can work together and do it. We don't need another bureaucracy telling folks to change it. And I believe in mentoring teachers, mentoring nurses, mentoring students. We have a great mentoring program. We can do the same thing with our Division of Elections. There are some districts that did it right and did it very well and have done it well for years. So let those be the gold standard for the rest.
We're going to start with Joseph. Governor Scott recently signed bills that allow illegal immigrants to pay in-state tuition rates and to practice law in Florida. What is your opinion about these bills and illegal immigration in general?
Well, let's start with the word illegal. I was amazed to hear someone say that we shouldn't refer to them as illegal because it gives them a stigma. It's like, okay, no, illegal is illegal all the time, every time. They took money away from the tuitions that should be going to regular citizens of the state and moved that money across to go to the illegal aliens that are here or to the children of them. And I agree they're going to need an education, but it should not be at the cost of the citizen. There's this, I'm not in any way in agreement with it. In all things, the citizen should be first. Not a corporation, not any special group. We, the citizens, should be first in all things, and they should not be giving these monies over.
Yes, I would say the term in-state tuition applies to legal residents of Florida. And, you know, right now we're seeing at the borders, you know, a lot of influx of people into our country. And somebody said, well, that's a national problem. And I said, well, no, you know, that's a state problem, because what we did was just pass a bill that makes it, you know, we're saying, okay, come, if you get here, you know, you can have in-state tuition. So, you know, I'm a compassionate person, and I want to help people, but I think you need to come here legally, and you need to play by the rules that we all play by.
As the mother of someone who's sending a lot of money to UCF right now, I would prefer that those students be legal when they're here, because that just makes my costs go up. Additionally, I was married to someone for 23 years who happened to be an immigrant from Germany. And I have personally had the experience of going through the entire immigration process with someone that came here on a visa, and it took 7 years, being married to a U.S. citizen, for us to go through that process. We did the interviews, the paperwork, the physical exams, the letters from the banks. But I'll tell you what, the day that he was sworn in and became a citizen was a very proud day for all of us. And you have to earn citizenship. It shouldn't be just given to anyone, and people shouldn't be able to go to the front of the line. They won't appreciate the wonder that is America if they don't go through the process.
Well, I have a little bit different take on that. I don't think we're giving a free tuition to anybody, unless you're a National Merit Scholar or you have, you know, really earned it. From what I remember, and I was up there when this was debated, that there were a lot of parameters set. The students had to have lived in the state of Florida for so many years, I can't tell you how many. They had to, how many? 3. They had to have been through our high school system the last 4 years of high school in our school system. Now, if they have done that and they can qualify for college, then I don't really see a problem in them paying in-state tuition. It's still tuition. They're still paying tuition. We're not giving them a free ride at all. I would rather them learn a skill and not end up on any welfare rolls.
Before this legislation was passed, there was a study that was done, and it showed Florida ranked 3rd in the highest number of illegal immigrants living here in Florida. California was number 1, secondly Texas, then Florida. On average, out of every 27 people, 1 person in the state of Florida is living here illegally. And we, as taxpayers, pay over $700 a year in covering their education and their health care. And that was before this legislation was passed. You're only going to see that go up. I don't believe that we should be rewarding people who have broken our law. by giving them discounted education. I believe that they should be deported, and I think that it's even more so important that if you're wanting to practice law here in the state of Florida, that you are a law-abiding citizen. To me, that is just common sense, and I think that that's what we need more of in Tallahassee, is common sense, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running, and that's one of the reasons I hope that I'll earn your vote.
Okay, Randy, the order this fell into, I guess, was pretty interesting, but it's a medical question. How has the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, impacted Floridians, and what actions can you as a Florida legislature take to improve the healthcare industry of our state?
Okay, in 1 minute. Yeah, Obamacare has affected patients, number one, and secondly, it's affected businesses. And as a physician that practices within the scopes of accepting Medicare, there is all kind of federal regulations that are coming down, all the data entry driven information when you go to your physician now. You know, sometimes someone's more interested in that computer, you know, at some point getting all that data in. So that's affected, I believe, quality of health care. It's had an effect on businesses. I've had 2 people come into my insurance plan at work because they were scared of what the Obamacare was promoting. So as a small business owner, that just cost me $800 more a month. Now, I want health care to be provided, but I don't want it at my expense and at the federal government pushing them in.
Obamacare is a huge drag on our economic engine. I'll give you an example. I was speaking with a gentleman a couple weeks ago. He owned an engineering firm. He does remodels of major restaurant chain all over the country, had 11 or 12 employees. This restaurant chain had a franchisee that wasn't doing so well, and they said, hey, Joe, would you buy these franchisees? So he bought 12 restaurants because they knew he was a good turnaround guy. They were losing money. So he went overnight from having 12 employees to 360 employees. He just finally got his business up and breaking even. So we had a consult about it. He now knows he's subject to the Affordable Care Act. We did some calculations. He figured out it's going to cost him at least $300,000 or $400,000 a year just to ensure his minimum standards for these people. And he looked at me and said, I'm going to be in the red again. I've already talked to him. He's already sold off 2 of the restaurants just in the last 2 weeks, trying to downsize his groups. This is not good for our economy. Florida even has more onerous laws in some regards than the Affordable Care Act, and I'm already working to work on some of those.
Okay, the Affordable Care Act is a federal program. There's not a whole lot that we can do about it in the state of Florida because it's a federal program. But we do need to revamp what we're doing here. And I can tell you that as a nurse working in a hospital, that there are 2 main things that concern me about health care, and especially in Florida. Number one, we have to keep primary care patients out of the emergency room. Everyone should have somewhere they can go for primary care. That's the most, emergency room is the most expensive health care in the nation. And you shouldn't go there to have your blood pressure checked. The other thing is, I think that that healthcare decisions need to be made by you and me and our healthcare provider. Right now, the insurance companies are telling us what we can do and when. And those decisions need to go back to the patient and their healthcare provider. Thank you.
Whether you're young or old, employed, retired, or business owner, affordable health care, which is not, affects us all. And from a state perspective, there really isn't a whole lot we can do about it because it really is a top-down federal program. But you can believe that as your representative, I will do all I can from the Florida House to make sure that Floridians are taken care of. The expansion of Medicaid, which was that we were offered the monies to expand Medicaid in the state of Florida to help cover some of those added individuals under the Affordable Care Act. I support the leadership that decided not to expand that. I think that it's a greater burden on our taxpayers. But what we do need is we need to go to the root of the issue. And I think that that is a sense of entitlement. People believe that they are entitled to health care. People believe that they're entitled to many things. And I think you really need to look at the culture. And as elected officials, it starts with us by not having a sense of entitlement. And from there, having a limited form of government and getting back to that.
I'm going to use one of those unpopular words. I know everyone says that it's a federal program, we can't do a lot about it, but as a state we can nullify it. We can refuse to participate in the system at all. It's going to take more than one or two people voting for it. We're going to have to come together and overcome even some of the people that are high up in the Republican Party that are trying to say that nullify is something you can't do. We're a sovereign state. We're all sovereign states. And we have the power and the authority to make these decisions on our own, and the federal government can't force us to do it. So I really think that first and foremost we need to repeal these things. We need to completely remove ourselves from it. But we definitely need to do something different than what we've already been doing. The way the system's going, the way that the people are attempting to utilize the system is just not functioning. We're not interacting at the proper levels, as Bea had said. So it's going to take a lot of work, but bottom line, I think we need an annulment.
Okay, I think we'll have a couple more questions, and then we'll have the candidates give us their closing statement. Okay, Terry, we're going to start with you. What criteria will you use to decide whether or not you will support or oppose upcoming bills in the Florida House, and how will you resist the temptation to go along to get along if it conflicts with your basic values, morals, and principles?
Well, the one thing I've said in the past is that preferences are negotiable, principles are not. And issues do change and issues come and go, but I have 4 basic guiding principles that I'll use anytime a bill comes up. 1 is it constitutional? 2 is, can we afford it? Is it in the budget? 3, will it create private sector jobs or public sector jobs? And 4, will it improve the quality of life for the people in my district and beyond? Those will be my 4 guiding principles whenever a bill comes before me. Thank you.
I think the decisions that I make in Tallahassee are going to be based on a premise that I heard from a very good legislator who said that if he believes that at least 51% of his constituents would agree with that he would vote for it, because you're representing the whole constituent body. Now, like you told me, you may make 49% of them really mad, but you're there to represent the majority of the people. I will never, ever compromise my principles as far as following the Constitution. I am a rule follower. I believe those rights and responsibilities of our nation and of our state are very important. But I would listen to the people, just like I've been when I've been working out in the community now, keeping a website going and interacting with them as bills come along. Thank you.
Now more than ever, we need people who are going up to Tallahassee who have a backbone. It shouldn't be a popularity contest. The pressure from the party is real. There's a lot of people who say one thing on a campaign trail and get up there and realize that they want to be friends with everyone. Well, I'm not going up to Tallahassee to make friends. I'm going up to Tallahassee to represent you and your voice and what I've run on based on what you've wanted. And that's what I'm committed to doing. I'm committed to looking at, is this the role of government? I think it's interesting that being an elected official is one of the only forms of of service, so to say, that you can have without even understanding what your job description is. You couldn't be hired by any industry if you didn't know once you got to that job what you were going to be doing. Yet so many people who run for a public office don't even understand the role of government. Is it the role of government? Is it constitutional? Does your district want it, and does it go against your principles? Because like others have said, the issues are always going to change, but your principles shouldn't. Mine won't, and it would be an honor to represent you.
You know, as an American veteran, there's been many days when we had to do things that you know is not right. There comes a time when you have to stand up and say, no, I don't care what the orders are. I don't care who's telling us that we have to do this. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and you have to stand the line. You have to know when it's a legal order or an illegal order. Same thing here. We have our Constitution to guide us. We have to stand on strong principles. You know, I know that getting elected is a popularity contest. However, being in office and doing the job is not. It's not my job to be the most popular person on the Hill with the other people that are in office. My job is to defend you. And if we're not making sure that we stand for the people and what the people want first, nothing else is going to work. We have to stand. We have to make a point of saying, I will not turn back. I will not turn around.
Well, I think the first thing you look at, yes, is this needed? How is it going to affect taxpayers? And how is it going to affect my district? I announced to run for the Florida House, District 31, January of 2013. I've been working hard now for 18 months. I've been working a long time at this. And I tell you what, when I go up there, I'm not going to cave to anybody because I'm going to be responsible to you, okay? I've spent a lot of time away from my family at working hard at doing this. So I'm not going to take the matter lightly if you choose me to go up there and be your representative. You know, I'm going to be responsible to you. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting near the end of our time. I think we'll go ahead and go into our closing statements from the candidates. And let's reverse the order this time. Instead of starting at this end, we'll start down at that end with Terry.
Thank you all again for sitting here this evening and for being here. And you are in a fortunate position because unlike some other districts, you have a lot of great candidates to choose from, and that's where the decision is going to be hard for you. But when the campaign is over and the lights are out, that's when true governance is going to take effect. And the fact of the matter is, we're going to be one of just 120 people in the legislature. And you can pretty much guarantee that half those people aren't going to agree with the things we agree with because they're going to be Democrats. So this is when the art of persuasion and the wisdom that comes from life experiences becomes important. Also having the respect of your peers. Because if you want to send someone up there that's going to get something done, it's important that you understand those basic tenements because you're going to have to sometimes be a very persuasive person. I feel like I've been endorsed by 4 of the sitting state representatives, actually one just left recently, because they've seen me going and they feel like I'd be a great candidate and to serve along their side. So I'm Terri Seefeldt. I would love to have your vote August 26th. It would be a tremendous honor. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you again, and it was great to be here and be able to take all your questions tonight. As I said earlier, I've been working hard at this since January 2013. I'm proud to have, from a grassroots level, raised money to continue forward and to be able to get my message out. I'm proud to have been endorsed by Sheriff Gary Borders. I'm proud to have had 73 volunteers show up on Saturday that have been working hard for our campaign. I'm proud to have won the straw poll recently at the Lake County Flag Day. So I'm working hard at this, and I want you to know that if I'm blessed and chosen to be elected to represent you in the Florida House, I'll never forget where I came from. Thank you.
My name is Joseph Stevens, and again, I'm doing this because I finally come to a point one day that I found that even though I realize I have the right to remain silent, I honestly don't have the ability. I am compelled to go forward. I have seen what's going on in our state, in our nation, the way these other politicians act, the way they hold our liberties so loosely, and I just can't stomach it anymore. I cannot sit back and wait and watch to see what's going to come out. We have to get involved. We have to go after the judicial systems and the different systems that are holding you as being, that you don't even count, whereas corporations are treated as if they're God. We have to turn these things back. We have to make sure that the citizen is first in all things. And if you elect me to that post, then I will make a point of bringing this forward.
There's been a lot of questions that have been asked and a lot of conversation tonight, but if your individual question has not been asked, please come see me at the end of this, because I don't want you to walk out of here tonight with any unanswered questions. I want you to know what I believe as a candidate, and I want you to be able to get behind me. And I invite you to join our team. We're running to be a champion of freedom, to bring a fresh voice to the Florida House, to bring authentic representation to the people here in Lake County and Orange County. And I invite you to be part of our team. We have over 160 volunteers. We're out knocking on doors. We have yard signs. We'd love you to take one home. We'd invite you to donate. The max you can give is $1,000, and I welcome any $1,000 checks you want to give. But even if it's just $5 or $50, you know, we would love your support, and it would be an honor to get to represent you. I have a track record in this community of fighting for local issues, of working with many of you on campaigns to get principled conservatives elected. And it would be an honor to be able to be one of those elected officials for you, and I hope to earn your vote.
You all are fortunate. Every one of these candidates are honest, ethical, enthusiastically patriotic people. We're all people of faith, and we're all here to serve you. What I hope you will do is look at the background that someone has. I believe I have the education and the experience to truly represent you. I have supporters from the business community, small business owners, large business owners, attorneys, bankers, retirees, teachers, nurses, patients, physicians, folks from all walks of life. And so, with that, when you see street signs that are green, and you see road signs that are green, and you see my signs that are green, and me dressed in green, even a traffic light that turns green so you can go, please remember me wearing green, because I'm ready to go. Thank you.
Okay. I hope everybody got well informed tonight. I want to thank the Lake Federated Republican Women's Club for co-sponsoring our event tonight. Please stop by their booth and visit with them. I'm sure our candidates will stick around for a little while to answer any individual questions you might have. Let's also give a hand to Vance, our timekeeper tonight. And most of all, let's have a round of applause for our candidates.